A powerful bomb blast at the perimeter of Kabul's Hamid Karzai International Airport last week killed dozens and wounded dozens more. Here are the details. At least 95 people were killed and 150 others wounded as a bomb was detonated by ISK, the Afghanistan branch of the Islamic State group, at Kabul's Hamid Karzai International Airport last Thursday, according to the BBC. The Pentagon said 13 U.S. service personnel were killed when the bomb went off outside the Abbey Gate area of the perimeter, which is controlled by U.S. troops and allows civilians access to evacuation flights, according to the Indian Express. Large crowds had been camping outside the area as they waited to enter the airport at the time of the explosion, which occurred at around 6 p.m. Cited by the BBC, UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace said a suicide bomber was wearing a suicide vest and a smaller device when he made his way towards the perimeter fence and detonated the device. According to a separate account cited by the BBC, one attacker also fired into a crowd of people, although reports also claimed Taliban guards had fired into the air. On Thursday, the Pentagon had initially said that there had been 2 explosions, the first at the Baron Hotel near the airport's perimeter, but on Friday it changed this account, saying that there was in fact only one. President Joe Biden responded to the attack by promising revenge on ISIS, but the attack exists as only one part of the tragedies that have unfolded at the airport since the U.S. began its withdrawal from the country. On top of widely seen footage of desperate people falling from a U.S. plane, on Tuesday, August 17th, human remains were found in the wheel well of a C-17 cargo plane that flew out of the airport. The plane arrived in Kabul amid the chaos of the Taliban takeover to deliver equipment and supplies for U.S. forces securing the airport for the evacuation of Americans and Afghans, as detailed in a New York Times report. After the plane touched down and lowered its rear ramp, hundreds or even thousands of Afghans were seen rushing toward the plane. The plane took off before its cargo had unloaded, but crowds of people climbed onto its wings and at least one person into the wheel well, where the landing gear would fold after takeoff. As the plane taxied along the runway, 2 Apache helicopter gunships attempted to scare or push people away using their powerful rotor wash, according to officials cited by the New York Times. But minutes later, the plane's pilot and co-pilot realized its landing gear would not fully retract and sent a crew member down to look at the wheel well, where human remains were discovered, apparently crushed by the landing gear. The situation on the ground now is countries have ended their evacuations and begun to withdraw their soldiers and diplomats, which the Associated Press described as signaling the beginning of the end of one of history's largest airlifts. From 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Thursday, Washington time, around 7,500 people were evacuated, according to one White House official, compared to 19,000 in one 24-hour period near the start of the week. This puts American forces far behind the numbers needed to rescue those eligible to leave before U.S. President Biden's August 31st deadline to depart, according to the New York Times. More than 300,000 civilians in Afghanistan have worked with Americans during the U.S. occupation of Afghanistan, according to the International Rescue Committee, cited by The Guardian. This puts them at risk of Taliban recrimination. The day before the bomb attack, the New York Times reported that at least 250,000 of those people who were entitled to expedited American visas remained in Afghanistan. The Associated Press reports that the Taliban have said they'll allow Afghans to leave via commercial flights after the deadline for the U.S. exit, but adds that it remains unclear which airlines would return to an airport controlled by the militants. Elsewhere, the New York Times reported last week that leaders in Afghanistan's Panjshir Valley were defying the Taliban, and Afghan forces who are still determined to continue fighting were regrouping around them. Among these were U.S. Special Forces and British Special Air Service-trained Afghan commandos who vowed to fight until their last drop of blood to take their country back from the Taliban. These anti-Taliban forces are preparing for the coming flight in the Panjshir Valley, an area just 80 miles north of Kabul. Any soldiers or militias wanting to take up arms against the Taliban were being urged to flock to the valley, where Afghanistan's Vice President Amrullah Saleh has declared himself the country's rightful leader. In a Twitter message to Afghans, Saleh said, "Join the resistance. I will never ever and under no circumstances bow to Talib terrorists." He has vowed to resist after President Ashraf Ghani fled the country. If caught by the Taliban's death squads, these commandos may face deadly reprisals, with 22 of their number having been brutally executed in June after they ran out of ammunition while fighting the insurgents in Dawlat Abad. Thousands of miles away in the U.S., the consequences for those in power are much less stark, but 2 questions stand out. How could they have exited differently, and why exactly were they there in the first place?
For more news animations and explainers, hit the subscribe and bell button to join the TomoNews family. Thanks for watching.